searched words of how to spell.
Okay.
Hi.
Hey, right on the nick of time.
Yeah, we were. We were like down to the wire getting this set up. And we want to point out that in the thumbnail image for tonight's live stream, we did spell unnecessarily wrong. There's like a that's supposed to be an E, and we do know that, but here we are.
Here we are. It was close.
Go back and fix it. So,
yep.
Welcome in. Good evening. This is, I almost said this is Jess. I am Jess. This is my dad.
I'm not Jess.
You're at the exit. You're at the exit 1, 2, 3. This is our
yeah.
weekly live stream. I'm happy to be here. It's been quite a week. I'm happy to do something kind of fun and relaxing and that I enjoy doing.
And we're doing this. Why do animals unnecessarily suffer?
Mm-hmm.
And it's been a week where Jess's little dog has suffered a lot.
Yeah, my little dude went in for, a lot of you know me on Facebook and you know Gruber. He's got his own cult. And he had a MRI done and recovering from anesthesia, had a stroke, hemorrhaging in his eyes, and a couple of days thought we could potentially lose him. And it was awful. I probably spent the last 3 days nonstop crying. Like, this whole part of my face is actually numb from wiping. It's so dry. But he's doing a lot better. He started bouncing back today. He's shown surprising improvement. But it was a good time to do this topic because I just had some very firsthand experience with animal suffering and how that actually how jarring and horrific it is to actually see it happening real time.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about that.
Duh. And if you're in the chat, if you're hanging out watching us today, jump in and ask any questions that you want, comments. We love interaction. So if you're watching and you interact, we'll get excited.
I'll even put a heart in there.
Oh, I love seeing the little bubbles go up. Yeah.
And so if you're just coming in across this live stream and it's first time, we're just father, daughter, both former Christians, stepped away from that. I won't say what you are. I don't believe the God of the Bible, the way that's described in there, can be true. And I just kind of lost my belief in that. That belief changed. Wasn't a choice or decision. I point that out every week. I did what I was told to do, is to really dig into scripture, pray, talk to people, and you will get the answers you will know.
Yeah.
And the exact opposite happened. There's just too many things in the Bible and in reality, just, in the Christian world and all of that, where there's supposed to be an all-loving, all-powerful, all-knowing God. That is just, it does not make sense and makes that really impossible for me to believe. In which really so we talk about that here. This is a place where you can hang out. If you have questions or comments, you can do that in the chat. We'll do our best to answer. It's not really a debate space, so because it's through chat, so we don't get into debates chat-wise. That'd be very difficult. But if you happen to be a believer and just curious about something, feel free to ask. We just don't want to be preaching, or again, Christian 35 years, been around it, know the Bible really well, know a lot of the arguments and things to say. It was just more of my beliefs literally changed.
Yeah.
As I looked more and more at the information. So, and it's for people that are going through that same process too.
Exactly.
If you're maybe the beginning of that process and wondering, but yet it's so frustrating because you can't ask things that seem kind of common sense, or you're wondering, isn't everybody wondering about this? Or you do ask and the answers are unsatisfactory, which is what happened to me. This is a great place.
Absolutely.
Just hang out.
Absolutely. Yeah, my story was kind of similar, except I was raised Christian, and I don't know if I would consider myself atheist or agnostic. I think Gruber is my religion, so he's my one true dog, and that is who I will follow for the rest of my life.
The Grubinator. So this thing on it really ties in well, different reasons people struggle with the faith. One of them is suffering just in general. I think the biggest challenge to it is not suffering, because there can be obvious reasons for suffering if it's necessary. But my biggest challenge is unnecessary suffering, or as we'll read today in Greg Kokel's article from Stand to Reason, which I think they were sitting down and they were not reasoning when they wrote this, because it is like honestly the response to um, in this article that we're going to talk about, Alex O'Connor, who's pretty well known uh, student of the Bible and philosophy, and has a pretty world, large following, and pretty well educated in this. Had a conversation with Greg Kokel. I don't know what the platform was or what that was like, but Greg says Alex really pressed him hard on this whole idea of animal suffering. So this was a written response article on Stand to Reason, Greg Kokel's email, or his website, and it's really reminded me, this is part of the reason I stopped believing are these kinds of responses.
Mhm.
It's like almost you're not even hearing or addressing the right question or the right topic. And it's really seems to be more written for people that already believe and want an educated person to give them that voice of authority and reason to why this is okay to believe this, but this is not well thought
That
out
was
at
how it
all.
struck me, was just a series of opinion statements that he just said as though they were fact, and there's stuff that it's just a statement. And I think just because he is who he is, and he's Greg Kokel and people know who he is, unfortunately, he thinks that if he just says stuff and lays it out there, it's like, no, this is law, this is fact. And it's literally just him making claims, and it's just claims. And that was like the first thing when I started reading it. I mean, I literally had to like step away because it was fairly infuriating. He just started making claims that were not backed. And I texted dad and was like, this dude's not even trying. He's just saying, well, fact. This is a fact. And it's just a claim. And it was
Yeah,
so annoying. And I'm
it
like,
is challenging.
yeah, he's just very difficult
So
person.
that's what we're going to go through tonight. We're going to,
This is so near and dear to my heart. I even have a tank top on that says adopt a vintage puppy, rescue a senior dog. So
and,
I love the animals.
and just right out of the gate, when you talk about unnecessary suffering,
Yeah.
and we're talking about, we'll see in this article, it requires, uh, could there be a God who's not all good or all powerful and there's unnecessary suffering? Absolutely. Because maybe that God's not powerful enough to accomplish his goals without unnecessary suffering. He just can't figure out a way to do it, or he's not powerful enough to
Oh,
do it.
sure. Yeah, I see what you're saying.
So it kind of like, dang it, I'm a god, but I'm not all powerful, because I can't figure out a way to have all this happen without this unnecessary suffering. And unnecessary to me, when it comes to the animal kingdom, may be like, well, everything dies. So let's just say, that's the way creation is, evolution is.
Yeah.
However, animals have to die. Of course, the world would be filled up, and if nothing died and new ones kept coming, we wouldn't be able to move.
It would be overrun.
There'd be animals everywhere.
Oh, I would
But it's
love
like
that.
it's like when an animal gets hit by a tree that falls in the woods during a storm, and it's pinned there, and it
Mm.
can't, it takes it 2 days to die of starvation or the wounds, or one animal attacks another and is slowly eating it while the other one's alive, and there's that's is that suffering necessary?
Yeah,
Could
right.
there have been a way to have that happen, whatever that end goal is? And so what, without the unnecessary part of it. So what you have to believe is all of that suffering is somehow needed by God. And Greg will even say that. Who are we to say or guess what?
I think if you have like any degree of compassion or empathy, you're like
Animal suffering. So this is Greg Kokel talking. It was an odd challenge, in a sense, coming from an atheist who didn't believe in morality. So right there is
that's where I took a breath.
not true. Like that's just not true. Now maybe Alex O'Connor doesn't believe in morality, which I don't think is true. I think he absolutely believes there are morals, and we subjectively create them using our senses, our logic, our reason, and there are morals. But this idea, and I hear it all the time, that because you're a non-believer, or you don't believe in God or authentic or objective grounded morals, it's just impossible to have them.
Yep.
Because, well, what do we do if we don't have a God who we've never known or seen or interact with, but we just trust that this God is real through this book that we have, who has contradictions and contradicts itself, contradicts the Old Testament, contradicts the New Testament,
And it's full of fluctuating morals
and
and
has
changing.
slavery is okay, and slavery is okay forever according to the
Yep.
Bible.
Rape is okay. God uses it as a punishment for something someone
Yeah.
else did and has women raped.
So all of that
Not a
is,
great source
you've
of
got to
morality.
believe in that. And if you don't, then there's just no way human beings can make up morals. Meaning, and morals are typically just creating a standard of behavior. And that is like, here's one of the description or definitions from Merriam-Webster is like conforming to a standard of behavior that is considered right and good by most people. That is where these morals come from, is us deciding what they are good. And the common objection is like, well, if that's true, you could get a bunch of people together that decided slavery was okay. Well, yeah.
That's literally what happened.
Yeah, that's history,
That's
right?
literally what
You
happened.
could get a
Yeah.
bunch of people and cultures together, and maybe even their God would go along with it too, that women are second tier people
Mm-hmm.
and can be sold as property. Yeah, that's what happened. And
Yeah.
as people evolved in people's together collectively, as their reason grows and understanding, their empathy, their interaction, as we evolve understanding together is how we overcome. And our greatest strength is uh, working together. Then those things started changing slowly, but it was certainly not because God did that, because God said, put many of those things in place and affirmed those things that
Right.
we today would think are just objectively or subjectively wrong. That in our subjective minds, we're thinking that's wrong. And that is how decisions are made. And that's how, and what's funny is, even like, I could hear what I just said there. I made a mistake, like, instead objectively instead of subjectively. And I've heard that too. It's like, oh, see, you secretly know inside that there are these objective. I do not believe there are objective truths that are just out there floating around in the universe that
Mm-hmm.
we can somehow tap into. And we certainly don't see that with the God of the Bible, because we see many people would disagree with things he objectively said. And if he commanded them and he's all good, those were good objective truths. And he, multiple places in the Old Testament, says those laws will stand in place forever until heaven and earth pass away.
Yep.
And that hasn't happened yet. So those things are still objectively good according to God. But we know, we've evolved to know, because we don't want to be a slave. I don't want to be owned by someone. I don't want someone to be able to beat me and own me and tell me what to do every day and not pay me and no autonomy.
That's the irony, is that literally it was people that changed those morals so that God established like that slavery was okay and women were second class, and it's people that came together and said, well, this doesn't seem like a positive thing. And so subjective morals are good because they're not static. Like, you can change them, and you can adapt them with time. And so I think that's where, that was, I think, the first thing in this article that made me really mad was just the fact that if someone's an atheist, that they cannot have morality. No, they just don't have antiquated morality from an ancient book.
Yeah.
That we're basing it on, which I guarantee you Greg Koukl doesn't either, because I guarantee you he doesn't own slaves. I hope not. Or he doesn't, well, he might think women are second class, actually. That wouldn't shock me. He shouldn't think that, but I wouldn't be shocked if he did. But I would doubt that he thinks it's okay to commit like genocides, or kill a bunch of newborn babies, or flood the earth and kill a bunch of women, children, babies, men, everybody.
Or stone
animals,
a woman
or stone
because
a woman.
she didn't bleed on her wedding night, knowing now,
a lot don't.
40% don't.
Yeah.
Throughout history, because even the Jews are writing about this problematic issue. It wasn't an accurate test. And it's things like that are challenging, but it really makes me. So this is not a question of does when a statement like that is made, Alex is already he doesn't even believe in morality. That's just so it's either is he being dishonest because this is such a common debate nowadays, and that's the world he lives in is that debate space about morality. So knowing atheists absolutely believe in morals, meaning standards or codes that most humans agree on, but we
Yeah,
just don't believe in objective, that they're coming from just some standard in the universe that we all instinctively know and adhere to them. But you can read the Bible and see that's not true. Like that's not true. um, People believe in myself. I believe in subjective, that people are determining these. I think Christians are
yeah,
subjectively choosing that the morals they believe in are the God of that book, and they are subjectively choosing that with their minds. They're making that choice, just
absolutely.
like
Yeah.
we're making ours. That is, it may suck, people may not like that, but that is one reality that we know for a fact is true when it comes to morals, is that societies have and still make codes that we agree on based on what we see and feel and experience and logic and reason for the survival or the furtherance of our people, or for the detriment if a group makes bad choices or what we would call bad.
Yeah.
And what would, and then that's another area. It's like,
Well, how do you have bad if
yeah,
is
and
that?
it's like, well, harm, you can see harm is a good measure. Most people don't like harm to themselves. And I won't continue going down that, because the next one's,
Yeah,
well, like, why? If you're just matters and motions and stardust and cosmic carbon made, billion old carbon, what does it care if we hurt each other? Because we have brains and we're alive,
and empathy,
and we can
hopefully.
empathy,
Yeah.
and we can understand and reason and logic what experiences are to us, and how do we want that to be for other people, for our children. Like, it's just when the way that's brushed aside just really makes me question the integrity of the people doing it.
Of that whole article, I feel
Like,
the same way.
do you really not understand that? Do you really not understand that uh, people that are not Christians, none of them have morals? Like, that just cannot be.
No, it makes him sound unintelligent, and it just makes me cringe to think that there would be people reading that like, yeah, those evil atheists. And as someone who identifies as an atheist, I'm just like,
So I'll go on to, okay. So even at 26 years old, and this is Kokel talking, even at 26 years old, Alex O'Connor was already one of the most articulate atheists on the planet, and he continued to press the issue of an allegedly benevolent God, not even wincing at the incalculable aggregate misery of sentient creatures that blanket the planet, which I think is a obviously an obvious question, not a benevolent, but an all loving, all just, all we're his children, we're knit together in his womb.
yeah,
Like, he desires not one should perish. Like, it's all about love. You hear that so much. Like, this is all just a great big love story. And so to ask, then why is all of this happening this way, and this unnecessary, not only
yeah.
suffering,
There
but
is
what seems
a
to be unnecessary suffering?
there's a one-eyed frog that lives on my porch. He's been back now like multiple times. Like last year, there's this one-eyed frog, and I was thinking about that this morning. Of well, why would there be a one-eyed frog? Because their eyes are very far on the side of their head, so he has super limited vision, and you can walk by him without him like jumping away. So that means he can't detect predators as easily. And if there was an all loving, but not like really caring God, he wouldn't have created that frog with just one eye. And it's not like he just doesn't have an eye. It's a defect or something.
Yeah.
And if you're like, oh, sin, I'm like, what did that frog have to do with any kind of sin?
Well, he is the fall of
Poor
which
one-eyed
every
Willie.
consequence from the fall was decided by one
Mm-hmm.
entity only, and
And it
that's
wasn't
God.
one-eyed Willie. Like he didn't have anything. He didn't do anything wrong or have anything to do with a fall.
Yeah.
So to have generations of people and animals and any sentient being punished because of one person's mistake that they didn't even know was a mistake because they didn't know right from wrong, it's like not even just neutral. That's actually cruel. Like to say that, well, one time this thing that I created that I supposedly loved and made it in my own image made a mistake that I didn't like when they didn't even know what the stakes are. All of the subsequent humanity and every sentient creature on the entire planet will suffer because of that. That is crazy. That's like dictatorship level psychotic.
In that, in the idea that then, um it's all about free will, but again, like we were talking today,
Yeah,
like
I
you cannot, free will is out the window if you are designed with a default to sin. If you are wired to not do the right thing right out of the gate, you are not even truly capable of doing free will,
no.
because you're already rigged to not have free will.
Well,
And
and
then,
you said it's coercive. So it's not free will if there's coercion. Because if it's free will, you can choose whatever you want. But if you choose wrong, I will burn you alive for the rest of eternity. That's coercive.
yeah,
That is not free will. That is
that is not like,
no.
so
But
that's,
anyway,
here's this has got me kind of fired up, because it says, I'm sure it's obvious. And again, Greg is talking to an audience that doesn't want to think too deeply about this and wants to
exactly.
hear, please make this go away.
Hmm.
Please make these people go away that keep bringing these legitimate questions up. And you can tell, because listen to this. I'm sure it's obvious to you that an atheist cannot raise a substantive grievance about suffering without smuggling morality into the equation. Like, how that's just kind of slimy. Like,
That's so gross. Smuggling morality.
I'm not smuggling. I can lay down, and so can any atheist who's spent just a little bit of time thinking about this, how a person who does not believe in a ancient God can still develop morals. No one's smuggling anything in,
No,
and
that's
we're not
crazy.
borrowing that from a God. You're not borrowing the idea of morals just because the Bible God talked about. There were gods before the Bible God that talked about right and wrong. So did Yahweh and the Bible smuggle that idea from a pagan god? And is that where they got it from? Of course not. It's because people can look at the world around them and evaluate what causes harm, what doesn't cause harm. Their understanding grows as societies live and evolve and see how one thing hurt is harmful, one thing is better for flourishing.
Well,
To like, no one's smuggling anything, and we're
he's also saying that as though, like a dig, as though it's a bad thing. Oh, he's smuggling morality in. But it kind of makes you go, well, wouldn't you want to talk about morality though? Isn't that fairly important? Instead of saying it as though he's doing something slimy by, oh, the morality argument. It's like, well, that's kind of
Yeah,
important.
it's very important and sluggy. Like, we're smuggling it into the equation. No, it is the crux
It's
of
the
the
crux of it.
equation. And
And
that,
the
and
whole thing
we're,
is so that sentient living things don't suffer.
yeah,
So that's the morality issue. It's not like he's anti-animal suffering, which I think is a great platform, like same. But he's saying it like, oh, he's smuggling morality. It's hilarious to me because
yeah, I
I
don't
don't know how
know.
you would read that and not cringe if you were trying to read it from his point of view and wanting to believe what he's saying. How do you read that and not go, well, wait, I think that's a good thing is to bring up
Yeah,
morality,
because
actually.
what he's getting at is, you don't believe in God, so now how can you talk about morals? And
Right, right.
easy. People have for centuries. And for as long as people have been around, people have either not had God or not had the biblical God, and still have talked about codes of behavior and ethics that people agree on. It's no
Absolutely.
smuggling. That's
In
always
my
been around, and to think like you have to be a Christian only to talk about morals is just false. It's just not
Well,
accurate.
and you can't. I my like trump card argument on this is that you can't use God as a morality compass unless you think it is okay that other people are raped to punish somebody else, because
Yeah,
God gave that command for that to happen. And yes,
yeah,
it was in the Old Testament, but also in the Old Testament it says, and this is the law for all time. And also God did it. And so that means
yeah.
that
It's
by
not.
your standard, anything he does is okay. So if God ordered all these women to be raped who hadn't done anything wrong, to punish King David, then you have to say that that was okay. So you can't actually use the
Oh,
Bible or God as a moral compass. You can't unless you think that's
oh. I
okay.
think people will. I think it's not a problem for them to say it's okay. It's not. No
Ugh,
one's hesitating at that. If you
that's
listen to
disgusting.
enough of these discussions where
It's so
atheists and
gross.
Christians talk about these issues, you'll hear many either defend it because he's God and he's all powerful and he can do what he wants and what he says is right, regardless if we don't understand it. It's because who are we to question God? And our understanding is not, he sees the whole picture. He knows why it works out for good to have those women raped, which is just a
That's disgusting.
vile thing. If anyone else claimed that and and put that scenario together and claim that it was good, of course they would not. But you get a pass because you're God and you're all powerful.
The more power you have, the less passes you should get on
Yeah, like
a
power should be
on
used
abhorrent
very carefully.
behavior. Exactly.
So I'll go on to say, suffering is here's suffering is evil. Otherwise, why the complaint? Evil requires objective morality.
Who said it was evil?
And that's just like that's just like making up
That's word
stuff and
salad.
like not responding to the argument.
Yeah.
Even if someone chooses the colloquial word of evil, because you could certainly, when I watched, what was the animal industry
Dominion.
Dominion, when I watched that video, it seemed evil. Oh, and I might say, oh, that's evil. Well, I don't think there's an evil source or like demons are in all those people's heads. Heck, a lot of them, that's where they're close by. And that's what they, if they didn't work in those places doing those things to those animals, they wouldn't have a job.
Right.
I think it's
I think
maybe
some of the
lack
things
of
that they were doing was evil, but like evil acts, obviously, like if you
e-
can beat a
evil.
baby cow to death, like there's a
When
little bit
we're
of ugly in
it's
there.
it's you can use the word evil without the Christian determination
That's
of
what I'm
evil.
trying to
Like
say.
there's
Yeah.
not, when we say evil, it's just a very grotesque form of behavior.
Yeah,
And
that
it's not
exactly.
like it doesn't mean we think there is a spiritual evil force. And that's just not either understanding what someone's saying or not wanting to understand. But again, the number of I mean, he wrote a book called Tactics, which is all about interacting with non-believers and how to win the argument.
Aha. That tells a
So,
lot.
but his whole thing is this apologetics for the truth. So that he does not truly know that people could certainly think that there is evil acts in the colloquial sense without saying there's more. We're not saying there's like good and bad, Satan and God, evil and good. It's just, it's a horrendous act
Yeah.
because we can look at our minds and see when you dip a animal into a certain vat of boiling water and it's still alive, and they pull it up and it's still flailing because, and it's being boiled alive and it's shrieking in pain. Use whatever word you like.
Yeah.
Someone can say that's not good. Why? Because I don't want to be dipped in water
Thank
and
you.
boiled. And I know, have a little clue what that'd be like, and I can see it happening to someone else.
Yeah.
If
Oh.
if
Yeah.
someone really can't understand that and is going to default to, well, you can't say that because you don't know what morals are or you have no morals. Again, then we're either talking past each other or willfully not
Not.
wanting to acknowledge what's happening.
And I don't. I think
And
it's weird that
you
he
you
just
see that
like
a lot. actually in this
That's what
arena.
that's what most people would do. Like most would do in that debate space. I just think it's weird that that he says suffering is evil. Otherwise, why the complaint? I don't. I don't think that was the argument at all, though. No one was saying suffering is evil because suffering can just
Suffering is causes harm, and many times
yes,
unnecessary harm.
that's the
I
whole
don't think
point.
that's evil. I think that's, if there's a loving God, it makes me question, would a loving God create unnecessary harm? Like if we why would he doesn't have the ability to come up with a way to where there's necessary harm if there has to be, like if you get a shot because
Yeah,
you need a vaccine and you got to get it into your system somehow. Yes, that's harm. It hurts. It's not desirable or something. But if the doctor gets to jab you 1,000 times and only needs to once, that's unnecessary.
that's
So that's the question, is a lot of this unnecessary type of harm. So again, then he jumps to uh, suffering is evil. Otherwise, why
why the
the
complaint.
complaint? Well, evil requires objective morality, and
Yep.
it does not. It does not. Maybe your term you're using requires objective morality, but what we're talking about is that unnecessary harm doesn't require objective morality. It just requires understanding that is harmful to another sentient being, and we can empathize, uh, and we can see the pain and everything, and know that's something we wouldn't desire. And like empathy is a big part of it,
It's huge. Yeah.
and not that it's some that you have to have an objective moral or a god. Like I don't need a god, and God has never told me that. Like I see that and I understand that, because that would be painful and hurtful to me or my child or my pet
Yeah.
if he was dipped in that. But like that's just, it's causing unnecessary harm. So objective morality is absolutely not required. Now, I don't think people like that because we all want that security. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
somewhere this is all written down. But up until this point, there is no place to go to find that list of objective morals that everybody agrees to and understands. Like, because it certainly isn't God or the Bible, because
Hopefully not.
I subjectively disagree with slavery. Man,
Same.
always. I don't think that's good to own a human being and being able to beat them. And you're allowed to by God in the Bible.
Yep.
I disagree with that. I don't think that's objectively true, because if it is, it has to be objectively true today. And even Greg Kokel is not going to agree that that's objectively true today. And objective means always. It's
Exactly.
always true, regardless of certain situations, circumstances, is the truth. So I think that's where, um, again, if this doesn't, I don't need to convince anybody about their, whether or not they need to stop believing, but these are the exact things that caused me to stop believing. And I didn't choose to. Things in my mind, as I read and deeply thought about these things, something started happening, and I couldn't know it was. Now it's impossible to believe. So, what are your options? Don't think about it. But that's not, because we're told to think about it. It's the answer is to think about it, but only in the way I tell you to,
Yep.
which
Yeah.
is really kind of spooky.
You should. It's usually a good rule of thumb if anyone's saying
Yeah.
like, don't use your brain. Only think what I'm telling you. That's a great rule of thumb to run away as fast as you
Yeah.
can.
So this is, I know we thought it seemed like you're going to talk more about like specific, like animals being unnecessarily harmed, but this is, I think, the bigger picture of that, like the moral issue
And it
that it's
used to
talking about.
really bother me because I think that's why they called that documentary Dominion, is I think that there really is, and a lot of it, I mean, it is a Christian nation, kind of stemming from this idea that humans have dominion over the animals, meaning basically you can do whatever you want with them. And there's not really any place in the Bible that says, like, hey, don't have puppy mills and like abuse dogs and don't, it doesn't really talk about fair treatment at all of animals. So I think that's why they called that documentary that, where they covered the abhorrent treatment of like factory farm animals. And they did cover other stuff too, race horses, puppy mills.
Yeah.
Um, That documentary is like still just pure nightmare fuel in my brain that I will never get away from. But
And a lot of it's too is just the natural animals being burnt alive in forest fires, like
yeah.
starvation when during droughts and that kind of thing. There's a lot of unnecessary suffering that's completely natural,
Yeah.
and it's not caused by man or anything. But this is, listen as it says, suffering makes O'Connor feel bad, which is understandable, but that's all his view allows him.
Yeah, I remember that line. That is so condescending.
So
Oh, he's
so as a thinking human being with the faculties to reason, to look at the world around me, to interact with it, to use my senses, my sight, my logic, my emotions, my empathy, everything that I've evolved into, all of that. So all I'm allowed to think, um, when I see suffering, all that it's allowed to mean to me is it makes me feel bad. That's all my view allows. Because what? Because I don't believe in a God? So I can't think about things and make decisions on my own without a God telling me what objectively is bad or good, that I can't think of that? That is so scary to me. That thought is, I understand what they're saying is like, well, you're just random atoms. I'm not saying I'm just random atoms. I'm saying people are the most evolved creature to date
Mhm.
that we know. We have great amounts of reason and understanding, and we can come together and do very good things, and we can do very negative things or bad things. We have that ability as people. But to think that, to minimize it all and reduce it to like, because I don't believe in objective truth from God, the only thing I'm left to is just feel bad about
And
something.
honestly,
And
God
what
would
does
be,
that mean?
and God in the Bible would be like, well, kill the lamb because you sinned, so kill the baby lamb. That would be like if I saw like my little dog who's recovering from a stroke, and I see that he's struggling with his balance and stuff, and I'm like, man, too bad I'm an atheist because I feel really bad for him and I'd like to help, but all I can do is feel bad because that's all that my viewpoint allows. I can't
Yeah.
I can't intervene, as I have, by the way, and like make him
Yeah.
comfortable.
Like,
And I still have like a reasoning brain, and I can still
it,
intervene and help in some way if something is suffering. It's
and it's just like, we're not, like, we don't have the right or ability with what is in our minds to make assessments and to have an argument, not against God, but we're saying a all loving, all perfect, all powerful God making that unnecessary suffering, I think is an absolute legitimate question,
yeah,
and
it
objection,
isn't a
and a
legitimate question.
cause to make someone start to wonder if that's true. Because here he goes on to say, suffering makes O'Connor feel bad, which is understandable, but that's all his view allows him. So if that's what his complaints amount to, that he just feels bad, which that's not what it's all reduced to. It's everything we've been
Yeah.
saying, that our subjective morals are very important because it's all we have. It's all anyone has. But if that's what O'Connor's complaints amount to, then his grievance against a good God simply evaporates. Why is God obliged to create a world where nothing happens that makes anyone feel bad? And now that's where I really have to wonder about, if you're reading this article and just want to
Wow.
feel good and have someone, hey, don't think about this stuff. It's, boy,
It gives you
don't
scary feelings.
don't go too
So,
deep. Yeah, this is a little uncomfortable.
mm,
How reductive, like how
mm-mm.
just simply reductive. And I cannot believe that is the, let me just say it again. If all of our complaints, all atheists are saying is, just makes me feel bad. I don't have any other reason I'm saying about why subjective or morals are real, or unnecessary suffering shouldn't happen if there is a good, all loving, powerful God. If I'm not saying all of that, but all I'm saying is this just makes me feel bad. You don't make me feel bad, Greg.
I'm
I
like,
feel bad.
I'm like, well, so what? Like, that's enough.
How scary was that? Because
Scary.
that's what it made me sound like.
I know. Well, he did that on purpose. But I'm like,
Then
so
his
what? You should
grievance.
feel bad too. Like,
Why is God obligated to create a world where nothing happens that makes anyone feel bad?
that's
No
so
one so
stupid. No one's.
far has ever asked for that. No one has ever asked for that. You've disingenuously reduced everything that atheists are clearly saying about subjective morals. You've reduced it and either willfully chose not to listen, or maybe you just really don't hear and you're not taking time to hear and
That's what it
understand
is.
someone else. Because if you've come away with everything that atheists are saying about this in the arena of morals, and that's all you're taking away, that all all we have the right to say is, well, why is God why is God making me feel bad? No one is saying that.
Well, except God is the one who said that God's like, I'm all good and all loving and I'm perfect. So then it would really stand to reason that people would be like, hey, then how come sentient beings who can't even commit sins because by Christian logic, like they don't have souls and they're how come they're suffering? Like they haven't done anything. That's a totally fair reason. But God's the one saying, I'm all good and I don't do anything bad. And everything I do is perfect.
And as I'm reading through, if you read through this article, you'll get more of the flow. But I could see very easily back in the day when I was a believer, this would be, remember, like, yeah, and not giving a lot of thought because I'm not thinking critically about the things that are being said.
Yeah, that's the
And
danger.
thinking a little critically about this, this is very insulting and condescending, and not hearing what is being said about our concern or the challenge of believing in an all-loving, all-powerful God in a world where not some things happen that make me feel bad, but like where people go in for cancer and they're are in there for months and months, and children just there, they can't go out, they can't do anything, they're in constant pain, they're sick, they're scared, all of those kind of things where millions suffer from starvation. Children, like the most horrible way to die, suffering starvation, that's unnecessary suffering. Or is the belief, the objective truth, that the only way God could accomplish his goals was to have children suffer like
Then
that?
he's not all
And then
powerful.
if so, it's like, what lack of creativity or imagination or power
And if
must be
he
involved to come up with that?
and if he couldn't have achieved it in any other way, then he isn't all powerful, or he could have come up with a different way to achieve the same goal.
Yeah.
So
So
he's either not all good or he's not all powerful.
yeah, that is
That's
a
kind
real
of what it was.
challenge.
Yeah.
That's a complete straw man. That thing about, well,
It makes me feel bad.
God
So
just can't. Why does God do things that make me feel bad? That's not what's being said.
I guess I would rather be a dumb atheist, though, that feels bad when they sees an animal suffering than this self-righteous a-hole who
Here,
doesn't seem to care.
so here's the next part. So here's where we go, because you have to address it. Because the first part is not addressing this unnecessary suffering or gratuitous suffering. It's trying to create a straw man of what's being said by atheists about morals, and painting us as if subjective morals are meaningless and we can't say anything about what's causing harm or not harm, or we think that's good or bad because we don't have objective morals.
Yeah.
That's that whole first section's about, is trying to paint like, well, you just don't have a leg to stand on, which is false. Even so, the objection can't be brushed off. So now you finally get it to, now we're getting to, even so, yeah, you can't just brush off this.
Point. Yeah.
God is real and God is good, but animals do suffer. Why? This challenge is classically called the problem of gratuitous suffering, suffering that has no moral justification whatsoever. How do we respond? I've had a lot of time to think about O'Connor's challenge since that interaction, and I want to offer some thoughts that may help you if you find yourself facing the same concern.
Tell me, Greg.
First, it's entirely appropriate for Christians to acknowledge that pain is a problem. According to our story, the world is deeply broken, but that brokenness affects everything in creation. Pause. The result of Adam and sin and all of this brokenness was God's specific design and choice.
Yeah.
Human beings did not and do not have the power to create and design being born with sin, having propensity to sin. We don't have the ability to design death. We didn't have the ability to design hell or separation from hell. We don't have, or separation from God. We don't have the ability to design addictions. Now there's things that people can be addicted to, but those systems that are in people, if God designed us, those systems and those ability and all of that brokenness was put there by the all loving, all benevolent God for the response of two people however many years ago who did not have the understanding of right and wrong, because it said now they understood once they ate of the apple. And because of that mistake, God put all of this in motion.
And even if they did understand, you're still punishing people for literally millennia for something that two people did at the beginning of time, which is insane and not fair or just by any logic at all.
Yeah. And so this is like, according to our story, the biblical story, the world is deeply broken and the brokenness affects everything in creation. There is one person that broke it, that made it, that there is this amount of whatever you see. There was one person who was responsible for that, or entity, if
Big man
and
upstairs.
that was God, biblically. It has to be, because people do not have that ability.
We don't have that power.
Paul points out, and then this is just like more reinforcement of this same idea. Paul points out in Romans 8 that at this moment, the entire creation groans as it awaits restoration. Well, great. That's just what? Someone looking around and saying, according to this story, we're all in pain? Yes. And we're groaning for something good. We didn't put us here.
But absolutely.
And then he goes on to say, all suffering is tragic. Well, why is it tragic if it's part of God's perfect plan and he loves his dear children?
That's really good.
Yeah. Why is it tragic? It's all good. Suffering ought to be good, including the anguish the animals experience, but it's part of our unfolding story, and our story is not over yet. So unnecessary suffering this is my question. So unnecessary suffering and all this pain and anguish is okay if it works out in the end. So having people annihilated in floods or burnt in horrible situations, or crushed in earthquakes, or wiped away by tsunamis, people being, in wars, and children being taken advantage of and raped, and just everything that happens in this world is okay, because in the end it works out. So suffering really isn't that big of a deal. It's part of the story. So really,
easy to say.
Why are you even bringing it up? Like, there's a plan,
But then my thing is, like, if God could have accomplished it without all of that and didn't, then he isn't all good. Because if you can avoid unnecessary suffering, I wouldn't even inflict unnecessary suffering on my dog. So that literally makes me better than God.
And I agree. And then I'm going to get through these points.
Okay, go for it.
The second one, anyone who reflects honestly on complicated neurological process that pain involves knows that this detail of biology is clearly engineered.
Wait, I have to, hold on.
He's just saying, if you think about it and understand how complex our neurological system is, it had to be designed. So pain, God designed it. So that's just a claim.
So he couldn't help it. He couldn't do it any other way.
It is just a claim.
That's just him making, there's actually people born with a disorder where they don't feel pain. So there is a way, which is dangerous, because then you don't know if you've been burnt badly, so you could not have pain.
And again, it's assuming that in heaven there'll be no more suffering, mourning, crying, or pain. All those things will be passed away. So you can do this. And it was all good in the garden. So you can do this. But because of that mistake, God decided to unleash all of this torment and pain and everything on us. It was not, and that's an all good God.
Mm.
when like there was no other way to deal with what Adam and Eve did. Like with my kids, they make a huge mistake. Well, every other child is going to be horribly punished from now on to eternity. That's my decision.
But it
I would
would,
be called an
well,
if they
it
would.
would actually be if you set me up to do something wrong
Yeah,
and didn't tell me, and you were like, I'm going to put this Twizzler in the middle of the room, and I'm not going to tell her that, like, she will unleash all of hell on humanity for the rest of the time if she eats it. But then I do, being like two and
yeah,
not understanding that that's bad. And then like that's how insane it is.
it is. It goes on. So he's saying that if you look at the nervous system, well, first of all, you can't doubt God because that was engineered. There is no question.
I would
It's a
ask a
funny.
stroke victim or like people whose nervous systems don't work. Like,
Yeah,
and it's just a claim.
what we would need to know is that God really did do that, and He could do that by showing up today and letting us know that He really did that. Like until that happens, we don't know that it was designed by anyone.
Yeah, you can't just say this is designed and then
You
it's
can claim that it is, but
yeah,
you can't. Then it goes
it's a
on to say,
claim.
pain is a design feature intended by God for good. Pain is a warning sign, and without it, serious injury, even death, would result. So, why again? Why in heaven is there going to be no more death, mourning, or pain if it's a good thing? Why all good things are supposed to be in heaven? Why isn't it there?
It's so dumb because it's just a cop out, and if he
Well,
is all powerful, he could have done it without that. Sorry, I'm like,
or at least that's a reasonable question. Like to act like
yes.
that's unreasonable or who are you? Well, I can't help it when I hear someone say something like that to think, what? But listen to this next. Keep in mind though that virtually all design features intended for good have downsides. So God engineered the nervous system, but he got it pretty good, but he
It's
only got it
got
so
some
good. There's
downside.
downsides too,
Oh
because
my
he's
god, he's
he,
making the
he
point for
tried.
me.
Sharp knives that pare vegetables efficiently cut fingers efficiently too. There's always a trade-off. Pain that alerts to danger can also cause suffering. So, an all-knowing, all-loving, all-powerful God didn't know how to design the pain that was needed without the unnecessary effects. Just saying, well,
It
look,
it
this is the way it is. You're saying there's an all powerful, all knowing God that can do anything. He spoke the universe as vast as it is into the existence and could not design the needed pain without the unnecessary pain. Ridiculous. Consider this last part would be hard. It's too much to go into because he puts two false premise like
oh, we could do part 2 next week.
two syllogisms together and they're not good and it falls flat. I see the exact opposite of what he's trying to make there. So
Well, I kind of did on the last one too, where he's like, hey, you know how the nervous system works kind of well, but it also sucks? God designed that. And I'm like, wait, I don't understand how that was like a good point. It's like you saying a brick can be used to like break a window or to build a building. And it's like, but if this is a perfect God who is like the perfect engineer and what they say, the perfect architect, I'm like, then he could have made mountains not landslide and crush and kill people. And he could have made nervous systems not freak out and give people strokes and like epilepsy. And
exactly.
so either he's not all good or he's not all powerful. You literally can't have both.
Or he desired
Or
to
he did
have
it on purpose.
unnecessary suffering in our
Yes.
lives.
Yeah.
And that's
I feel like
who
this
would
article
who
kind of
would
it
who would do
kind of
that?
and especially like okay, of all of that, like whatever. Sometimes I don't like people either. So if God's up there and he's like, these people are so annoying, zap, now you have problems. I'm like, I get it. Animals do nothing wrong. Like they don't even have like they just don't do anything wrong.
Yeah, they're
They're
not
so
in
innocent.
they're or if they do harm to people, it's
It's
instinct or they're
instinctual, it's
not
reactive, they're not
making
malevolent.
decisions like people are. The challenge with all of this to me is this is the kind of uh thinking and processing and reading the Bible and seeing what the Bible says about this kind of thing and who that God is like and the world around me, which is what started to change in my mind the question of like, not is this a good God or a bad God, but could this really be real?
I
Is
know.
this really what's being described in this ancient book that has misogyny, like the tiered society where women are property, and it was okay with God. He didn't stop it in any way. And he made laws that played off of that, that
Mm-hmm.
there was slavery, that there was genocide, that there was, he flooded the world, that we're now going to have Jesus come, and he's going to he's going to step in front of that bullet and save us from going to hell. But he fired the gun. Like, he's the one that shot the gun at us.
Yeah.
And now we're like, he's all good because he's now saving us from what he set up. It's those kind of things that led me to think, I can't believe in this God is real. It's not like I'm mad at him or angry at him, or how could you be like, I just, it's hard for me to believe if there's all wise, all knowing, all loving, good creator, that he would be doing that kind of stuff. It just doesn't make sense to me.
No, it
And
doesn't.
according to the religion in the book, because of what's presented in there, me using my mind honestly to want to know him ends up thinking this can't be true. I will now be tortured eternally by that God who made me, according to him, not able to know the things I can't understand. So I'm just left with what I can.
And made you with a sin nature so that you are just born doomed.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
sounds like a nice
so what
guy.
I'm being asked to do is put aside my mind that was given to me by God and reason that was given to me by God, and put those questions aside and say, well, I guess I just have to believe what I actually don't believe, or would not. There is no one that's going to say there's a good God who was okay with slavery and said you can do this for all time. Like, come on. And I know all the apologetics why that's what, they're not good. That's the problem. That's the problem. You can only cover it up so far. It is what it is.
It says what it says. Yeah, unfortunately.
And that's where I ended up walking away. And I want to like have belief in something greater than me, like whether that's humanity, it's people, it's nature, it's if it's a God that gives us eternal life and we all get to live together perfectly, awesome. But the system that is so convoluted and contradictory between the Old Testament and New Testament, I was thinking that today. That's why Andy Stanley got in so much trouble when he did the whole we need to unhitch ourselves from the Old Testament, because he's a very smart person and he knows and gets the issues that as long as we're linked with that, these kind of discussions and problems are going to be there.
Yep.
You can pile the apologists as high as you can and call them doctors and give them doctorates in apologetics, but it doesn't make these issues, these very serious issues, go away.
Yeah, like God literally commanding women to be raped in the Old Testament. Like that, it's just in the Bible. And so as long as you can read,
really hard.
It's really hard to be like, but God's great and perfect, but he just...
Or I will bring these forces on you and you will be, the siege will be so great, you'll be forced to eat your own children.
That's a rough one too.
I mean, I guess.
That's a rough one.
I guess. I don't want, like, hey, if that sits well with you and it's like, yeah, but he's still good because he says he is. So I know that flies in the face of all that, but I can't do that. I literally can't do that. My mind does not allow me to put that contradiction together. So
no, but you do you, bro. But same.
Well, God, that takes us right up to the wire.
I know. There's a lot to say about that. I just like really have a lot of issues with Greg Koukl. So I like anytime we can get annoyed reading one of his articles. He's so smug.
Here's the funny part about all of this is I was a huge stand to reason. I even gave to them. And it was one of the later, as I got into and started hearing on the internet all the atheist debates and Unbelievable with Justin Brierly and those early ones, I was always on the Christian side because I'm like, well, yeah, this is God's truth and it's objective morality. Of course what's there to even argue about? Like, this will be fun. And I started listening to him. It's like, oh my God, We don't have the answers. We have bad answers, and these other answers are better. And then I went to Stand to Reason because this is one of the leading evangelical, apologetic, clear thinking. That's their clear thinking Christianity, man. This is clear thinking, right? You want your answers. And I started getting their stuff. They are part of what really led me away
I know
because
other
of
people that same
their
thing.
consistent reasoning or lack of is like, oh my God, this is the best.
I know.
We do not have the answers. We do not have good answers for the very serious problems in the Bible. So then you're called to either make up these fanciful ideas and reasons and ignore logic and reason, or you got to start thinking maybe this isn't true.
Yeah,
Is where I
absolutely.
found myself. So that's it. So hey,
Go be
thanks.
nice to a dog today, and
Exactly.
we
We'll
love you
come
guys,
up.
and we'll see you next week.
Peace.
Bye. All hail Gruber.
That was awesome.